What is going on, my level design lovers? And welcome to the Level Design Lobby. Hello guys and girls, welcome to the 6th episode of the one, the only, I've already said the name once already, Level Design Lobby. You are joining me, your host, with... Man, I need to find more words that rhyme other than most. I'm not going to say toast. Max Pears. So, I hope you are all well, playing and making the games you love. Let's go right into the heart of today's discussion, because the topic is hide the details. So, what do I mean by this? I'm talking about with your mechanics, the mechanics of games. And with this, I'm referring to when we teach players mechanics, we often teach them how to use it. But I think it's sometimes great to show them the basics and then allow them to explore the mechanics further. So you reward the player with something cool, new, exciting, or like a twist on the mechanic that they've learned or figured out by themselves without us guiding or helping them. So this is what I mean. And to help demonstrate my point, I'm going to be discussing a couple of games, one of which is one of the regarded as one of the best games of all time. I'm talking about Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII can be remembered for so many reasons. Its story, the characters, its art style. I personally, still to today, love the polygon characters. If you haven't seen them before, Google it. They look great and it reminds me of my childhood. So, what I'm going to be talking about specifically regarding with Final Fantasy VII is the Materia System. So, the Materia System, in case you don't know what it is, the magic that the players use in the game for combat as well as for certain puzzles as well. And you can equip these on... Hold on, I'm going to address that a bit later on. Yeah, as I said, it's the magic system that can be used in combat or for puzzles. And the player receives a little tutorial on how to use it, how to equip it, also on how to create their own materia. Players create their own materia by mixing a number of different materias together, which forms a new type of materia. So you're taught the basics about this when you start playing. Not much other than, like I said, equip, it can be used in battle, and how to make new forms of it. But you're not taught a few things, which again, I believe just helps emphasize the point that I'm trying to make here with hide the details. With this, as I said, it was equipped with certain items, such as on your weapons and on some sort of clothing garments. But what's really interesting is they don't tell you about how different sort of equipment styles affect the materia. So what do I mean by this? Is you get a number of slots that are they're just black circles with grey borders around them, which you can attach your materia to. So you just put it in, and then when you go to the combat, you'll see that under your magic materia section, you get to now use that materia that you've placed onto your character. But in certain items or weapons, you'll see that there are two slots, or maybe even more, joined by this grey bar. And you're not taught what this bar is. What you know is when you experiment with it. So what I did is there's a certain type of materia referred to as all. If you put the all materia first, followed by then a certain fire, certain element, thunder, or what have you, you're then able to not just cast that spell on any single enemy, but when you select it, you get to see that you are going to cast out all the enemies on the field, which again, it's rewarded through exploration of you experimenting. And there's other ways to use it as well. That's just one example. And this was not taught to me. This is through me experimenting. There's loads of different guides out there. There were strategy guides when it came out, but even more now with the power of the internet, you can see loads of different other combinations. So that's already one thing there, with combining different types of materia through your items. Again, fantastic. It made me feel super smart when I was experimenting, because I didn't get that first try. This is me doing a few different... And I didn't discover that the first time. That's me experimenting multiple times with this, trying to figure out what this bar meant It becomes obvious later on, but it's that sort of thing where it was because I took the time to experiment that I was able to create something that came across as badass to me. So the next is the combining of materias. Now again, there's recipes, I believe, in the game, but it's mainly up to you to experiment. What do you get when you merge X many things together? Sorry guys, before I continue, just noticed how echoey the first part sounded, so I've just moved where I am to try hopefully reduce the amount of echo I get in this. But now back to the materia and combining the materia. So as I said, it's up to you to experiment. And I want to go back to why this is rewarding. Because when you're hiding these details, in the example I'm giving now and the further examples I'll be mentioning throughout this episode, is that you can still complete the game without these things. It does not stop you from progressing at all. You can often find all the material that you need for the baseline of the game in the world. So this is just something that you as a player can do because you want to discover, because you want to explore and you want to know more about this mechanic. So that makes you feel smart, and also it's something that then you can go tell others, whether it be on forums, online, or to friends at the office or at school or anything like that. Which again is another good reason why you should hide certain details. It becomes a talking point. It becomes something that's now mentioned and creates buzz within your core audience, because then others will try it if they haven't tried it already. Like I said, there's hundreds of forums and strategy guides online currently for Final Fantasy VII with this. Yeah, I think that's well, there are two reasons on why you should do it, because it makes the player feel smart and it becomes a talking point. So back to Materia, as I seem to have gone off topic about 3 times there already. So, distractions, echo, and the reasons why I went on that side note. We're going on to the combination of materia and how important that is. So, similar to how they taught you about materia in Final Fantasy VII, they do a similar thing about teaching you about combination. Now, back in the time when Final Fantasy VII was released, I believe that rules of teaching the player weren't as strongly as established as they are now, and I think RPGs and definitely JRPGs still suffer from how they teach players about mechanics and elements within their games. So they teach you with a massive text block saying how you how you do it. It does a small video on how you should do it, and then it won't let you progress until you follow the same actions again. Now that's it. It just teaches you that you put materia in here, you put materia in there, press the button, you suddenly get new materia. That is not the sound of new materia, so it's a lot better. But again, it lets the player explore this. It doesn't tell you which ones work best with one another. And it's up to you to trying to figure this out, which is again the most exciting part for you as the player. And it's because of that you can end up creating some of the most powerful and amazing materia out there. Because the materia that you often combine ends up, 9 times out of 10 being stronger than the stuff that you can find along your way. So it gives the player a chance to, if they want, have a bit of a crafting and a bit of an experiment with this, which again just rewards you, because not only does it create talking points, it makes the player feel intelligent, but it also makes you it makes you stronger. If you can get some of these amazing materials early on in the game compared to when you have a chance of finding them in the levels further on, it just makes the bosses and the challenges far less challenging through no fault of design, but because you spent the time experimenting. And materia costs quite a bit of gil in the beginning of the game, and not until later on, like all games, that you become a millionaire. But again, having that time just makes it super cool. And this is where we're going to conclude the section on Final Fantasy VII, an amazing thing. But again, just such a brilliant detail with this on how that you can give the player a little bit of an interest, but if the player wants to spend that time looking and deep diving into those mechanics, it just makes it so much better. Hey guys, I just want to catch myself here because I actually listened back and heard some of the things I was saying. And when I say new materia, because you can't actually craft materia, that's in later versions of Final Fantasy and stuff, is different things you can craft elements and that. Sorry, what I mean is the abilities that you gain with that materia. So there's certain combinations, like I said, all with an element for you to then attack all enemies, but there's other combinations which give you sort of stronger abilities. That's what I meant when I say new materia, I mean new abilities. Sorry guys, just had to fact check myself and make sure I wasn't leading you astray. Right, back to the podcast. The next game that we're going to jump into is Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. I have not played this, but I've been watching a few playthroughs and it does a similar thing. And that, instead of materia, they actually use it on badges. Now the badges have many different attributes, can boost attributes, can increase your chances on certain player abilities as well. But again, it just says that you can use badges. But what's the smart thing with this is the combination of badges. Because players can use a number of different combinations to help their own play style. Now, if you just want to boost a specific stat, for example, your health, you can do that with these badges. But there's also things that can help you with your defense, increase the chance of the enemy missing your character, and so much more. But as I said, they can help you as a player increase your type of play style, not just by boosting a single stat, but allowing you to gain more counters to complement the style of how you play in combat and in other ways as well, but it's primarily used for combat. And one of the things ace about it, similar to that of Final Fantasy VII, is that it encourages you to explore with these badges and the combos of these badges, because it'll only improve your play styles. And with these different badges, it might make the player play a different way as well, showing them that they can be more defensive because of these number of reasons. Or it's okay to be aggressive because you've now got these badges which increase the damage that you deal. It's clever because you don't need these badges. Now they help you, but if you really want to deep dive into all these different combinations, then you can look on forums, strategy guides, and many other places to teach you the best way to play a certain style. And another really intelligent and super smart design decision, stumbling on my words there, is the layers to it. Now, as I said earlier, is that you can select badges to complement your play style. And like I said, it could be just something as basic as increasing your health. And that's just the lowest tier of the badges. Then is the combination that comes next, mixing and matching these badges to allow you to get certain moves. So for an example, one of the things is you increase the chance of an enemy missing their attack, as well as there's another badge which will randomly give you a chance of getting a health boost as well. So with these, it means that you've got a stronger defense against the enemies and that you can take more risks because of mixing these badges together. Sometimes they might miss you, or you might get a health increase randomly. So you can be more on the offense because of this strategy. So again, having these multi-tiers and multi-levels of these badges just shows that it's open to the player for them to dive as deep as they want. My third example is the Dead Rising series. And what I want to talk about it is the combination of weapons. How you as the player have a chance to get all these weapons and then combine them. Again, not even needed to play the game, how you can take these ordinary weapons and make them into some sort of mega weapons. Now, the way that you unlock these mega weapons, we'll just call them for now, is you find these blueprints, which you can see, you can actually just find them on people. There is posters that if the player looks at them, it unlocks a blueprint for certain weapons. But actually, how they encourage the players to mix and match with weapons is actually really smart. Because where you make all these mega weapons is in this workshop area. Now, in the workshop area, there is normally an item / weapon that you can pick up, and just outside it is another item. And what you can actually do is you can combine these items together. And outside each different workshop is a different item. So if you haven't discovered the blueprint, then it's actually giving you the items there, but it's up to the player to experiment to discover these blueprints So it's trying to encourage you by saying, hey, there's this item you might not have thought about, and just outside is another item. Some players might not see this, other players will miss it. But again, it is letting the players explore and discover. And what Dead Rising does better than the previous two examples is it actually gives a hint to it. Like I said, you find the blueprints or you just find the things within that specific workshop. So if players pay attention to these details, they might realize, oh, one area gives you a box of nails in the room and then a baseball bat to make nails in a bat, while another workshop gives you diamonds and a flashlight to make a lightsaber. Game maths, you don't know how it works, but it does. I think that's just incredible, because as I said, those other two were brilliant, but you really had to discover that yourself. You had to play around with things. But here it's actually giving you hints by giving you specific items at specific workshops. I know that, so like I said, I know some players will miss that, but when you just stop and think about that, I think the way they're trying to encourage players, yeah, it's a great way, so hats off to them. Now, what we've just talked about is mechanics that can be used, but as I said earlier with this, you don't need these mechanics to complete the game. These are more complementary mechanics. They make your life easier if you try them. If you don't, there's still just the baseline path that you can go. There's still the baseline path that players can take to complete the game. It just adds that extra skill factor with these mechanics that I've just mentioned in Final Fantasy VII, Paper Mario, and Dead Rising. But now, let's talk about the main mechanics. And the game I'm going to be talking about to help demonstrate my point is Metal Gear Solid 5. Now, you may remember me talking about this in episode 1, about how it had some of the best depth in mechanics around, in my opinion. And that's what we're going to be talking about here, and how these mechanics have so much depth to them that it doesn't teach the player all of them. It is completely up to the player to just explore them. So I'm going to now break down a few of these mechanics for you and discuss them and how it's up to the player to find out about these. One of the first things is the inflatable dummy. So for those of you who haven't played it, the inflatable dummy is an item that the players get where they can chuck up an inflatable dummy of Snake, and this will distract enemies and you can use it as a decoy for them to shoot at to cause a diversion, or it can be used as a weapon. Now, I only know about this because I saw someone play through with it before it got released. And as I said, you'd use it just to distract enemies, but what you can do is you can throw it, for example, it was thrown next to an enemy on a cliff edge, and then when it popped up, it knocked the enemy off the cliff. Again, it's up to you as a player to figure that out. They don't teach you every time you get a new mechanic. It's just thinking about logic, like what would happen logically if something popped up next to someone. It would either stun them, knocking them down, or in this case, knocking them off the cliff. Again, not taught at all. It is solely up to the player to figure this out and experiment. Another thing they do is how you traverse with a cardboard box. Now, the cardboard box is a legendary mechanic and is well known through pop culture, and it is one of the trademarks of the Metal Gear franchise. So, as we know, you can hide underneath it and use it to stealth across the levels that you find yourself in. But it can also be used as a sledge. I mean, just what? Again, no one teaches this. If you just run and dive while in the cardboard box, you'll end up going down hills faster, being able to go down like a bobsleigh, just clearing that distance so much faster. And again, this is just incredible because it allows you to just figure stuff out and be rewarded for trying new things. How players unlock mechanics within Metal Gear Solid 5 is they get this currency, and then you can spend the currency on your research and development to get these new items. And again, there is no tutorial for these items. All you have is a slight description about these items, and that's about it. There's a few customizable options for them, depending on the item, and yeah, the player is just left to their own device. So as I said, the big difference between this and the badges, materia, and the combination of weapons is that these are the main mechanics here. Again, some players may never like figure some of this stuff out. Some of this stuff may never be seen by certain players because they haven't tried this. Yet for others who do something crazy, it can be rewarded with something magical like the sledge moment, which just keeps players coming back and keeps players invested. It also spreads good word for having these hidden gems within your mechanics, because people are going to spread word of mouth. YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all of these things come into play when you're creating these mechanics here. Now the word will spread, and then other players will want to try it on their games. So I won't go into further much detail because I've spoke about this before, but I just want to make the final point of this is like whether it be for a complementary mechanic like the Materia System or for the main mechanics for a game like Metal Gear Solid 5. There are other examples, but these are just the ones that I've brought to you today. Is think about having a reward for the player for allowing them to experiment. Having something hidden in there that can get the word of mouth spoken about your game, about a mechanic in your game. Don't just show everything to the player. Let them discover stuff on their own. Oftentimes, we as designers and games creators, we over-tutorialize things and try to hold the player's hands. But doing stuff like this will earn a huge amount of respect and also make the player feel super smart for doing these things, for experimenting. So, I hope you've enjoyed today's topic on episode 6. Remember guys, let the players explore and reward them with something amazing, cool, and something they may not have seen or expected with your games and with your game's mechanics. So guys, thank you very much for joining me on the 6th episode of the Level Design Lobby. If you have any other examples that high details well and you think are brilliant examples to share with me and for the others, then please hit me up at Twitter at MaxPairs. And the biggest thing I'd like for you guys to do if you're enjoying this and you think you're learning from this stuff is please subscribe to the podcast. The more you guys do this, the more I know that I'm doing something right and that you're enjoying yourselves as well. So guys, take it easy. You'll hear from me soon. Take care guys. See you later.